Intro. Let's be honest, we live in a world that feels more chaotic and overwhelming than ever before. We're not just bombarded with information, we're drowning in it. Our days are dictated by the endless scroll, the 24-hour news cycle of outrage, and the constant ping of notifications, each one a tiny demand on our attention. It feels like being caught in a relentless digital storm, and adrift in the middle of it. It's so easy to feel overwhelmed, anxious, and like you've completely lost your way. We're relentlessly pushed by an invisible pressure to do more, be more, and have more, a pressure amplified by the highlight reels of everyone else's lives. But this frantic chase just leaves us with a hollow, growing sense that we're not the ones steering our own ship. But what if the secret to mastering your mind and finding profound peace in all this modern chaos wasn't some new productivity app or a fleeting self-help trend, but the timeless, battle-hardened wisdom from 5 ancient Roman quotes? These aren't just dusty, forgotten words, they are practical, life-altering principles that have been stress-tested for over 2,000 years, through plagues that wiped out millions, through brutal wars, and through the cataclysmic fall of empires. They hold the power to completely reshape your reality from the inside out. Stick with me, and let's discover how these powerful Stoic truths can fundamentally change your perspective on life, starting today. Section 1, Seneca on the Nature of Anxiety. Our first quote comes from a man who knew chaos intimately. Lucius Annaeus Seneca was not just a philosopher, he was a master navigator of a turbulent world. As a statesman, one of Rome's wealthiest men, and an advisor to the notoriously unhinged Emperor Nero, he lived at the heart of power, ambition, and lethal intrigue. He survived the treacherous waters of Roman politics, endured an 8-year exile on a remote, barren island, and was eventually ordered by his former student, Nero, to take his own life, an order he met with a calm and dignity that stunned those around him. Through all that turmoil, he wrote with incredible clarity about how to live a resilient and virtuous life. And in those writings, he gives us our first perspective-shifting principle. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Just let that sink in for a second. Think about the last time you were completely consumed by worry. Perhaps you were waiting on medical results, replaying a clumsy mistake from work over and over in your head, or dreading an awkward but necessary conversation. In those moments of intense suffering, where was the pain actually happening? Was it in the objective, external world, or was it entirely contained within the private theater of your own mind? Seneca's genius insight is that the human mind is a relentless story-making machine. It constantly projects itself into the future, writing, casting, and directing these elaborate dramas of what might happen. And because our brains evolved for survival, they have a powerful negativity bias. They're far more interested in scripting potential tragedies than potential triumphs. This is the very engine of anxiety. It's the gap between a neutral event and the terrifying, catastrophic story we tell ourselves about it. The event itself is neutral. The suffering is in the story. We exhaust ourselves fighting ghosts we've conjured, rehearsing tragedies that may never come to pass. This doesn't mean real problems don't exist. Of course they do. But Seneca is pointing out a crucial truth: we often pay for our troubles twice. Once when, or if, they actually happen, and 1,000 times before they happen, in the precious currency of our peace, worry, and fear. So, how do we apply this in an age where our phones are practically designed to fuel our anxious imaginations? The Stoic solution isn't to ignore these thoughts, but to challenge them with cold, hard reason. The practical advice here is to become an active interrogator of your own fears. When you feel that familiar knot of anxiety tightening in your stomach, just pause. Take a breath. And ask yourself a simple, clarifying question: is this happening right now, or am I suffering in my imagination? Vigorously separate the undeniable facts from the fiction you're spinning. What is actually true in this present moment? Your head might be screaming about impending doom, but the reality is often much simpler, much quieter. You're just sitting in a chair, breathing. You're just reading an email. You're just waiting in line. A powerful Stoic practice for this is called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. It sounds grim, but it's the exact opposite of anxious, chaotic spiraling. Instead of letting your fears run wild, you deliberately and calmly look a worst-case scenario right in the eye. You don't just imagine the disaster, you methodically plan your response to it. You ask, if this thing I'm afraid of actually happens, what will I do? What internal and external resources do I possess? How have I successfully handled difficult situations in the past? When you do this, you strip the fear of its monstrous power. You go from being a passive victim of your runaway imagination to an active, strategic planner. You realize that even if the worst happens, you have agency. You can respond. You can endure. And more often than not, you realize the catastrophe you imagined is far less likely and far more manageable than your anxious mind made it out to be. You are not your anxious thoughts. You are the calm observer who notices them. And by seeing the difference between imagination and reality, you reclaim your peace. Section 2, Epictetus on the power of perception. Our next guide is a man whose life is perhaps the most powerful testament to his own philosophy. Epictetus was born a slave around 50 AD in what's now Turkey. His name in Greek, Epictetos, literally means acquired or property. Legend has it that his cruel master, as a casual display of power, once twisted his leg until the bone snapped, leaving him permanently crippled. And yet this man, who had zero control over his own body, his freedom, or his station in life, discovered the ultimate source of human liberty. After being freed, he became one of the most revered and influential Stoic teachers in the entire Roman Empire. His core teaching, the very foundation of his unshakable peace, is captured in our second quote. It is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. This is, arguably, the single most important and empowering idea in all of Stoic philosophy. It's a radical claim about the nature of human experience. Epictetus is telling us that the outside world, events, people, circumstances, has no built-in, inherent power to disrupt our inner state. An event is just an event. It's a neutral, objective fact. The pain, anger, or frustration we feel doesn't come from the thing itself, but from the judgment, the opinion, the story we attach to it. Imagine you're caught in a sudden downpour without an umbrella. The rain isn't objectively good or bad. It's just water falling from the sky. To a farmer in the midst of a drought, that very same rain is a blessing, a miracle. But to you, on your way to an important meeting, you might form the opinion, this is awful. My day is completely ruined. Why does this stuff always happen to me? It's that opinion, that judgment, that causes the disturbance, not the rain itself. This principle is what the Stoics called the dichotomy of control. It's the profound wisdom of knowing the difference between what's in our power and what isn't. According to Epictetus, the only things truly and completely in our power are our own thoughts, our judgments, and our actions. Everything else, our health, our wealth, our reputation, what other people think of us, is ultimately outside of our direct control. True, unshakable freedom and happiness, he taught, come from putting all of our energy into the domain we can control, and learning to accept the rest with grace. Let's make it modern. You deliver a presentation at work, and your boss gives you some sharp, direct criticism. The event is the feedback. The suffering comes from the opinion you immediately form, my boss thinks I'm an idiot. I'm definitely getting fired. I'm a total failure. These are just stories, judgments you're layering on top of a neutral event. A Stoic, using Epictetus's wisdom, would pause and surgically separate the event from the opinion. The event, my boss provided feedback on how to improve my work. The opinion, this is a valuable opportunity to learn something. I can use this information to get better at my job. The power isn't in changing your boss or magically erasing the criticism, the power is in choosing your interpretation. So, what's the takeaway? Try a technique sometimes called the view from above. When you feel yourself getting upset by something, imagine yourself floating up out of your body, looking down on the situation. See yourself, see the other people involved, see the room. Now float higher, seeing the entire building, the city, the country. Go higher still, until the earth itself is just a tiny, beautiful blue marble hanging in the silent blackness of space. From that vast, cosmic perspective, how big is the thing that's troubling you? That cutting remark, that traffic jam, that thoughtless social media post, they all shrink into their proper, insignificant size against the vastness of space and time. This doesn't invalidate your feelings, but it puts them in perspective. It breaks the spell of your immediate, reactive judgment and gives you the precious space to choose a better one. Master your opinions, and you master your life. Section 3, Marcus Aurelius on responding to injustice. Our third quote comes from the unlikeliest of philosophers, a Roman emperor. For nearly 2 decades, Marcus Aurelius was the most powerful man on the planet. He ruled a sprawling empire that was constantly hammered by brutal wars on its frontiers, a devastating plague that ravaged its cities, and betrayals from his closest allies. And yet, every night, often in a simple tent on the cold German frontier, he would light a lamp and write to himself. He wasn't writing laws or battle plans, but a private journal, a series of personal reminders on how to be a better, more virtuous, and more resilient human being. This journal, which we now call the Meditations, was never meant for publication. It's the raw, honest account of a man reminding himself how to apply Stoicism under the most immense pressure imaginable. And from these private notes, we get this gem of profound wisdom. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. This quote completely reframes how we should respond to people who wrong us. Our gut instinct when we're hurt, betrayed, or treated unjustly is to lash out, to get even, to make the other person feel the same pain they inflicted on us. An eye for an eye, right? That's the path of instinct. But Marcus Aurelius, the man who commanded legions, is telling himself and us that this path is a trap. Why? Because when you seek revenge, you allow the person who hurt you to dictate your behavior and control your emotional state. You start playing their game, by their rules. You let their vice, their anger, their cruelty, their dishonesty, infect your own character. In your effort to harm them, you stoop to their level and, in a very real way, you become just like them. You let them win the most important battle by corrupting your character from within. The Stoics believe the only true good is virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, temperance, and the only true evil is the abandonment of virtue. What other people do is external, it can't harm your inner character, your soul, unless you let it. The real fight isn't against the person who wronged you, it's against the internal temptation to abandon your own principles. To meet hatred with more hatred is to lose that fight decisively. The true victory, the best revenge, is to refuse to be changed. It's to meet their injustice with your own unwavering integrity. It's to demonstrate, through your actions, that you operate on a higher plane. This isn't about being a passive doormat. It is an act of supreme strength, discipline, and self-control. Think about a toxic workplace. A colleague undermines you to get ahead, perhaps by taking credit for your work. The first, burning impulse is to plot your revenge, right? Dig up some dirt on them, sabotage their next project, gossip behind their back. But applying Marcus Aurelius's wisdom means taking a totally different, more powerful route. Instead of wasting your precious energy plotting against them, you redirect that energy inward. You double down on doing excellent, undeniable work. You treat everyone, including the person who wronged you, with professionalism and respect. You let your impeccable character and the sheer quality of your work be your definitive answer. They tried to drag you down into the mud with them, and you simply refused to go. You stayed on the high ground, and by doing so, you protected the one thing that truly matters, your own character. Here's the practical move: learn to transform moments of injustice into opportunities for virtue. When someone wrongs you, don't ask, "How can I get them back?" Ask, "What virtue can I practice right now? Can I practice patience instead of rage? Can I practice forgiveness instead of pettiness? Can I practice magnanimity instead of bitterness?" This single question flips the entire script. You're no longer a helpless victim reacting to life, you're a protagonist actively forging your own character in the fires of adversity. Living well, with virtue and tranquility, is a state your enemy, trapped in their own anger and vice, can never reach. And that is the best revenge of all. Section 4, Seneca on the ultimate perspective shift. Let's return to Seneca, a man who, despite his incredible wealth, was constantly meditating on our most limited and precious resource, time. In his famous essay, On the Shortness of Life, he makes a startling argument: life isn't actually short, but we make it short by squandering our time on trivialities, distractions, and nonsense. He believed the key to using our time wisely was to bravely confront the one thing we spend our entire lives trying to ignore, our own mortality. This brings us to our fourth, and perhaps most challenging, quote. He who fears death will never do anything worthy of a man who is alive. This quote cuts directly to the heart of so many of our modern anxieties. We live in a culture that treats death like a failure or a dirty secret, something to be hidden away and never spoken of. We desperately chase eternal youth, distract ourselves with an endless stream of entertainment, and plan for a future as if it were guaranteed. But Seneca warns us that this pervasive fear of death is a cage. It paralyzes us. It makes us timid and small. It makes us consistently choose comfort over courage, and perceived security over true significance. The person who fears death is the one who stays in the soul-crushing job for decades because they're terrified of the uncertainty of starting something new. They're the one who never travels to see the world because they worry obsessively about what could go wrong. They're the one who never speaks their truth, never takes a stand, never risks rejection, because they're afraid of the social or professional fallout. They are so busy trying not to die that they completely forget to live. Their life becomes a long, slow, cautious process of avoiding risk, which is ultimately a process of avoiding life itself. The Stoic antidote to this deep-seated fear is the practice of memento mori, remember you must die. Again, this isn't meant to be morbid or depressing. It's meant to be an electrifying call to action. It's a tool for achieving radical clarity. When you truly and viscerally accept that your time is a finite resource, your priorities snap into razor-sharp focus with incredible speed. All the trivial worries, the petty grudges, the desperate chase for status, the fear of what others think, it all just fades into the background noise it always was. What comes into focus is the present moment, in high definition. What comes into focus is what actually matters, the quality of your relationships, your contributions to the world, the strength of your character. Remembering death is the very thing that gives life its meaning, its beauty, and its urgency. So, how do we practice this without becoming overwhelmed? The key is to build small, consistent reminders of mortality into your daily life. You could place a skull on your desk, a classic memento mori. Or you could use a modern approach, like an app that shows you how many weeks you likely have left. The point isn't to fixate on the end, but to use the thought of the end to supercharge your appreciation and engagement with the now. Another powerful exercise is to ask yourself each morning, if this were my last day on earth, would I be content with what I'm about to do today? This simple question is an incredibly powerful filter for your decisions. It will push you to stop procrastinating on that important project, to finally make that call to a loved one, to apologize for that mistake, to say I love you more often. It forces you to stop living for a mythical someday and start living fully for today. By letting go of the fear of death, you are finally, truly free to live. You can take risks, love fully, and act with courage, because you understand that the greatest tragedy isn't dying, but getting to the end of your life and realizing you never truly lived at all. Section 5, Epictetus on the Foundation of Freedom. We end our journey with the man who started as a slave and ended as a master of himself. In all his teachings, Epictetus returned to one foundational idea, the master key that unlocks a peaceful, powerful, and truly free life. He summed up this ultimate Stoic truth so perfectly that it's our final, perspective-shattering quote. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle: some things are within our control, and some things are not. There it is again, the dichotomy of control, stated with beautiful, liberating simplicity. This isn't just a clever mind hack or a neat trick. Epictetus is saying that our entire experience of happiness and freedom fundamentally depends on making this one crucial distinction, and then living by it, relentlessly, day in and day out. Just think of all the mental and emotional energy we burn every single day on things we have absolutely zero control over. We get furious at the traffic jam. We get anxious about the national economy. We're frustrated by the rainy weather. We're deeply hurt by what other people think of us. We dwell on past mistakes that are unchangeable. We worry ourselves sick about a future that hasn't happened and may never happen. This is a perfect blueprint for a life of misery and servitude, a life where our inner peace is constantly held hostage by external events. We become slaves to things outside of ourselves. Epictetus, who knew the horror of actual slavery, understood that true freedom was purely internal. He realized that even if his body was in chains, his mind, his will, his judgment, his power to choose his response, was completely and utterly free. That's the profound freedom he's offering to each of us. The path starts with a simple but powerful mental sorting exercise. For any situation that's causing you stress, grab a piece of paper and draw a line down the middle. On one side, list every aspect of it that is completely outside your control. On the other side, list every aspect that is completely within your control. Let's use a common and stressful example. You're worried about losing your job because of company-wide downsizing. What's outside your control? The global economy, your company's stock price, the final decisions made by the executive board, whether your boss likes you personally. Trying to control these things is like trying to command the ocean to be still. It's an exhausting recipe for frustration and despair. Now, what is within your control? Your performance and attitude at work today. The effort you put into updating your resume and learning valuable new skills. The professionalism and kindness you show to your colleagues. The choice to focus on your own virtuous actions instead of your fears. The decision to save money as a buffer. Happiness and freedom begin the very moment you decide to stop pouring your precious energy into the out of my control column and go all in on the within my control column. You consciously let go of the crushing burden of trying to change the unchangeable and you fully embrace the profound power of mastering yourself. This shift is incredibly liberating. The anxiety doesn't just vanish, but it no longer paralyzes you, because you now have a clear, productive path for your energy. You have a space, a fortress within, where you are always in charge. This is the ultimate perspective shift Stoicism gives us. It's not about becoming emotionless or detached. It's about becoming intelligently active. It's about aiming your power where it actually makes a difference, and building an inner citadel of peace that no amount of external chaos can ever breach. CTA and conclusion. We've just walked through 2 millennia of profound wisdom, guided by a Roman statesman, a former slave, and a powerful emperor. We've learned that we suffer more in our imagination than in reality, that our opinions, not external events, are what truly upset us, that the best revenge is to protect our own character, that facing mortality is the secret to a full life, and that true freedom means focusing only on what we can control. These aren't just quotes to post online or concepts to admire intellectually. They are tools to be used. They are a daily practice. Stoicism isn't a philosophy you simply read about, it's a philosophy you must live on the battlefield of everyday life. It's a practical guide to building resilience, finding tranquility, and living with virtue and purpose in a world that can often feel like it has none. If any of these ideas resonated with you, if you felt a small but significant shift in your own perspective today, then subscribe for more timeless wisdom to help guide your journey. I'm genuinely curious, which of these 5 quotes hit home for you the most right now, in your current situation? Let us know in the comments below. Sharing our thoughts and struggles is part of the work, and it helps all of us get stronger together. Remember, the goal isn't a life without problems. That's impossible. The goal is to become the kind of person who can handle any problem with wisdom, courage, and a calm, steady mind. The goal is to be unshakable.